Two Christian families were rescued from an enraged mob in Sarkodha's Mujahid colony on Saturday morning. Police say the incident stemmed from alleged desecration. District Police Officer 𝐒𝐭𝐨𝐬𝐿 confirmed a large police presence was deployed, preventing fatalities and ensuring residents' safety. Social media videos showed violence and property damage, but Mali claimed they were fake and insisted no injuries occurred. A relative of an injured person in Minority Rights March contradicted this, reporting a lynching and property arson. Punjab Police praised its response and community's role in restoring peace, stating the situation is now under control. Punjab Home Affairs Secretary Noorul Amin Mengal visited the site, emphasizing no religious injustice will be tolerated. The suspect is in custody and further investigation is ongoing. Meanwhile, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Peshawar's electric supply company has sought a first information report against the PTI MPA Fazl Elahi. Elahi allegedly led protesters into Peshawar's Rahman Baba grid station on Saturday, forcibly activating 9 feeders. PESCO statements claimed Elahi and the protesters surrounded and entered the station, activating feeders with high losses due to electricity theft and non-payment. A heavy police contingent was present. Elahi addressed the crowd, threatening further action if power wasn't restored. The protest ended after negotiations with PESCO officials and assurances that load shedding would not exceed 10 hours. Israel continues its attacks on Rafah despite the ICJ's ordering an end to the military operation. Multiple deaths have been reported from renewed attacks in central and northern Gaza. Al Jazeera reported that the Shabura camp and areas near the Kuwaiti hospital in Rafah were targeted on Saturday. The hospital, the only one still operational in Rafah, has renewed its appeal for fuel and continuing to treat patients. The ICJ's ruling, the third one this year, ordered Israel to halt its offensive, citing the risk of 1.4 million Palestinians in Rafah. Over 800,000 Palestinians have fled the offensive since it began on May 7th. The UN claims to address the rising death toll and humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where nearly 36,000 Palestinians have been killed. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu criticized the ICJ's ruling, dismissing genocide charges as false. The UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories called for sanctions against Israel for defying the court. Israeli acts also hit a school in Jalabia refugee camp, killing at least 10 and injuring 17. Further attacks on Beit Hanun and Gaza City resulted in more casualties, including women and children. In northern Gaza, Israeli troops surrounded Kamal Adwan Hospital, preventing the treatment of incoming patients. Dr. Hassam Abu Safia reported contacting the Red Cross and UNICEF without receiving assurances of aid. Israeli quadcopters fired on Palestinians in Wadi Gaza, killing at least 6. In central Gaza, an air attack on an apartment building in Nusayrat refugee camp killed at least 4 people. Israeli troops also took over the Palestinian-side of Rafah border crossing with Egypt, showing aid deliveries. The UN Refugee Agency for Palestinians has suspended food distribution in Rafah due to a lack of supplies and security. UN Humanitarian Chief Martin Griffiths urged the release of hostages, a ceasefire, and an end to the crisis, describing the situation as critical. Millions of Indians voted in the penultimate round of the national election on Saturday as opposition aims to prevent Prime Minister Narendra Modi from securing a third consecutive term. Polling stations opened at 7 a.m. with many voters arriving early to avoid the peak summer heat. Temperatures in New Delhi reached 43 degrees Celsius, prompting a heat wave red alert. Nearly 970 million voters are eligible to elect 543 members to the lower house of parliament. Saturday's voting in 58 constituencies, including 7 in New Delhi, complete the polling for 89.5% of the seats. The final round of voting for the remaining 54 seats will take place on June 1st, with elections to be counted on June 4. Early voters included President Murmu and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, as well as opposition leaders Sonia and Rahul Gandhi. Mehbooba Mufti, former Chief Minister of Indian-occupied Kashmir, protested claims that her property workers were detained and prevented from voting. In West Bengal, workers from the All India Trinamool Congress blocked BJP candidate Agnimitra Paul's car as she proceeded to vote, reflecting ongoing tensions between the parties. This election is seen as a test of Modi's political dominance. If successful, he will be the second Indian leader to win a third term, after Jawaharlal Nehru. Modi's campaign highlighted his 10-year achievements but also stirred Hindu nationalism in response to low voter turnout in early rounds. The election has drawn attention to concerns about India's democratic space, with critics pointing to the BJP's use of government institutions against political opponents. Escalating violence in Myanmar's Rakhine state has forced another 45,000 Rohingyas to flee, the United Nations reported. Clashes between the Arkan army rebels and military government resumed in November, ending a ceasefire that had held since the 2021 coup. The AA seeks more autonomy from ethnic Rakhine populations, while Muslims Rohingya, long persecuted, are caught in the conflict. More than 1 million Rohingya have previously fled back to Bangladesh, including during a 2017 crackdown now under international investigation for genocide. UN spokesperson Elizabeth Russell said tens of thousands have been displaced, with 45,000 fleeing to Naf River near the Bangladesh border. She called for the protection of civilians and international support for Bangladesh, which already hosts over 1 million Rohingya. However, Bangladesh is hesitant to accept more refugees, leaving many stranded on the Myanmar side. UN rights officials have reported Bhutan Tong is largely being burned, with testimonies of beheadings and extortion by both the AA and the military. James Rodhever from the UN described the dire conditions, noting recent attacks on Rohingya civilians by both sides.